Hi, my name is George Love. I'm pastor at Hebron Presbyterian Church, and this is Wednesday evening prayer for Wednesday, September 11th. It is indeed September 11th, and that day is synonymous with just an awful day in our country's history, and the impact of which is still being felt. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that in just a few moments. But first, I want to just take a quick look at Sunday's Sunday school lesson, partially because it's kind of relevant to what happened on this day and to events that happen at any time and of any scale, but things that come along that are just in their own way overwhelming to us. September 11th is a unique sort of overwhelming that was shared by so many people that day, that it was a group experience of that. But there are smaller shared experiences like that, and then there are the individual experiences that come along in our lives and that oftentimes impact our families or impact us as individuals, and they can feel in their own way as bleak and as overwhelming, but we experience them in sort of an intensely personal way. This lesson is about that. It's about what we do in the face of things that are kind of overwhelming to us. And it is about a prayer offered by Hezekiah, King Hezekiah, to God in the face of Sennacherib, who was the ruler of Assyria, who had basically sent a letter saying, I am going to come and I am going to destroy your country. And the overall purpose of the lesson is to say that Sennacherib could actually do that. He had the power, the military might to do that. And Hezekiah knew that about Sennacherib. He knew that about Assyria. And he also knew that he had no way of standing up to them. So he was completely sort of at a loss in terms of how do I respond to this, except that he responded to it as a person of faith. He responded to it by going to God, by offering God praise, and then by asking for God to help. And this is a lesson about what happens when we experience or we are witnessing these things unfolding. He was witnessing it unfolding in his country. But what happens when we witness this, whether it's unfolding in our country, unfolding in our state, our neighborhood, in our workplace, in our personal life, when we're experiencing something unfolding and it feels like the only thing we are able to do is to watch it. We don't know how to impact it in a different way to stop it, to make it not happen. So it's about bearing witness to these things and bringing these things to God, and seeing that bringing these things to God is not the admission of there is no option, but that bringing these things to God is maybe the best option of all, which isn't to say that we shouldn't do anything if we're capable of some response physically by acting or whatever, but a good place to always begin is with prayer, by bringing things to God, our concerns, and then listening for God. How do we respond? So I just want to read the very beginning of this. This is 2 Kings, the 19th chapter, and I think it starts with verses 14 to 20. I'm not going to read all that. I'm just going to read the very beginning. Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messenger. So this is the letter from Sennacherib, and read it. Then Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. So Hezekiah goes to God's house and offers that letter as, in a way, kind of a sacrifice, places it before God, the way we would place our concerns sort of verbally before God. He literally placed the letter before God. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord, the God of Israel, who are enthroned above the cherubim, you are God, you alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see. Hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to mock the living God. So it begins with a statement of Hezekiah's belief in the power and the authority of God. O Lord, the God of Israel, who are enthroned above the cherubim, you are God. You alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth, you have made heaven and earth. So it is a statement of Hezekiah's trust and faith in God, who God is, the power of God, and the authority of God, that he believes God to be not some regional God who only applies to Israel, but he is the Lord of all. And so that fundamental belief. And then the second piece: incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see. Hear the words of Sennacherib. That prayer, in short, is, you are God. Please listen to me. You are God. All that you are is the fullness of God. And I can talk to you. And I beseech you to listen to me. And that is a great model for prayer when we're facing those kinds of circumstances, when we're facing things that are so hard. And again, I go back to 9/11 as an example. And there was, in the midst of the shock and the hurt and the pain, there was a great amount of prayer. Just asking, what do we do? How do we respond? How do we go forward in this? The lesson just makes clear that Sennacherib is as bad as he sounds, that Assyria was a real problem. Assyria was the bully of the region, and so when Assyria turns their eye to you, things were going to look rough. And the threat is not imagined. He's not imagining this is going to be a problem. It's a problem. The disaster seems to be inevitable. And it points again to that movement of, he gets the letter, he takes it to God, and he presents it to God. And that's his what the lesson describes as Hezekiah's go-to move, is to go and pray. To go to the holy place and pray and offer that prayer to God. So that worship is the response. And what a great response it is. And it talks about, in the last section, the stepping into the world, it says, in many ways the people of Judah were limited to the role of spectators in this drama. And I mean, the parallels between this lesson and the experience of 9/11, how many people who were not in like any of these places that were immediately impacted, but were living here in the United States and around the world, really, but for those of us here, we just couldn't stop watching what was happening on the television. And the television didn't stop the coverage. It went 24/7 for quite some time without paying attention to much else in the world. That was the only thing that was on our mind, the only thing that we were thinking about. And in that way, we, like Judah, watching the Assyrians come towards them and really not being able to think of anything else, that was us at that time. And in that way, we were spectators watching it and not knowing really how to respond. And so that is a huge event, but we can experience that in our own personal lives. There's things that can paralyze us. There's experiences we can have and we just don't know what to do. And again, this holds up the model that a thing to do in those moments is to bear witness to what we're experiencing and to take that witness to God and to seek God's involvement and trust that God will listen. And that's kind of the remainder of this lesson. If you want to look up the passage, it's 2 Kings 19, 14 to 20 and 29 to 31. And there's Isaiah's response, as the prophet Isaiah's response to Hezekiah, which is the promise that God will be with the people. And again, our belief is we take these things to God, these really hard, difficult things that we bear witness to and place before God, that we don't do that and then maybe God hears or maybe God doesn't, but we believe that God does indeed hear, that God not only hears but cares deeply about what we bring to God. So for the time of prayer, I wanted to share something I found online, which is 9/11 prayer of hope and healing. And this, I think, was written a couple of years ago and then reprinted today, but it's by Paige DeRuyscher. I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong. DeRuyscher, DeRuyscher. But it's a reflection on the events of that day, and then there is a prayer. So I invite you to listen in. In 2001, I was an American Airlines flight attendant serving passengers from New York to Los Angeles, Boston to Orlando, and every major city in between. A Kansas girl living in New York City, I was fascinated by the energy there, the colorful personalities, the subway camaraderie, and the constant buzz of life. That summer, I moved back to the Midwest and left the excitement of the city behind, but my heart still held a vibrant picture of God's precious creation. Taxi horns, street vendors, and all. And then 8:46 a.m. September 11th happened. Do you remember where you were? For many of us, it was business as usual that morning. Some of us were tuned into our TVs already, and the light-hearted morning show changed suddenly to an unimaginable scene of terror. Is this really happening right now? Are those real people? Some were driving to work, and what came over the radio sounded like a movie trailer. This must be a mistake. Others got a call with a frightened voice on the other end of the line, and many wondered, what's happening? Are we safe? Is everything going to be okay? I thought of my fellow flight attendants flying the same routes I had flown, discovering that they would never make it to their destination. My heart broke for the city I had come to love. Yet even today, when we ask ourselves what is happening, are we safe, is it going to be okay, here's what I know. God was there in the chaos, and He is with us in this moment. God's heart breaks for His precious children, but He is never surprised by our struggles. He goes before us and can be trusted with every detail. God is our safe place today and for all eternity. On this anniversary of 9/11, we honor the memory of those who lost their lives, and we give thanks for those who had the courage to serve in the face of danger. While this day is recognized as an official day of remembrance for this tragic event, we know that any day is a good day to lift those most impacted up in prayer. Dear loving God, we pause to remember the great losses and courageous acts of September 11th. We lift up those who are still affected, families of the victims, police officers, firemen, first responders, and all those who were involved. We pray for the light of Christ to flood the hearts of people everywhere. We believe you desire to redeem your creation, and we trust that beauty will continue to come from the ashes of those dark days. Surround us with your mighty angels. Give us compassion for one another in all of life's circumstances, and instill in us the courage to answer your call. Amen. Then she closes by saying, let's take today to remember, especially those who may feel the pain of this day most acutely, and then think of ways that we can be an encouragement to one another when we are in our own personal times of needing someone to be there and to encourage us when things seem just out of control and beyond anything that we are able to do. Let us remember to turn to God and to seek God's presence and God's guidance. Thanks for being a part of Wednesday evening prayer for today, and I will be on vacation the next 2 weeks starting next Monday, and so I am uncertain about Wednesday evening prayer for the next 2 Wednesdays, if I will get to it or not. So I will post on the church's webpage if I am not going to be posting something, but I may, given whatever time's available, circumstances, I may still post the Wednesday evening prayer. So I can't say for sure, but I wanted to let you know what's happening in case I am not posting for the next 2 Wednesdays. At any rate, have a great rest of your week. You're invited to join us for Sunday school on Sunday at 9:45, worship at 11. On Saturday at church, we are having our yard sale. That's at Hebron Presbyterian Church, and we're at the corner of Old Preston Highway and Hebron Lane across from Freedom Elementary School. Big yard sale in our activities building this Friday and Saturday, and then also next weekend as well. But this is the beginning this week, Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Come and find the things that are waiting for you. And again, thank you for stopping by and being a part of Wednesday evening prayer.